So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Recognize our public. I'm sorry, I forgot your name and I met you.
My name's
Allie, that's right.
Allie.
And Andy Lockney and Steve Lemke and Eric Jones and Wendy Stone. Thank you all for coming. And Ian Keel. The second order of business is rules of procedure, which I will waive tonight. They are on the table under the attendance. I'd like to ask if there are new additions to the agenda tonight. No? Changes to the agenda order? Also no. So I would look for a motion, assuming that everyone has had a chance to read the draft minutes of October 23rd. I would look for a motion to approve those minutes.
I so move.
Thank you.
Second.
And Gordon will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Please sign them.
I'm doing that, for that last one. Peter, do you want to give us a highway update?
Sure. So our intrepid road foreman is on vacation right now, so I will fill in. Mostly the road crew has been doing cleanup and preparations, getting ready for the upcoming winter. Been doing a lot of road grading in various areas. Larock Construction replaced most of the culverts on the east side of Stage Road, east of the bridge. And starting this week, Mike Kachuk and MT3 are going to be replacing the culverts on the west side of the Green River Covered Bridge. So it will be closed. The bridge will remain open, but the west side of Stage Road will be closed during the day after the last school bus in the morning until the first school bus in the afternoon, at which point they will open it up to be one-way traffic until it gets dark, and then it'll be fully open again.
For how long?
Approximately 1 week.
1 week?
Yep.
Okay.
They're actually anticipating it's probably going to take 4 days because there's fewer culverts on that side than there were on the east side. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yes, Steve?
That's going up Stage Road, not down River Road.
That is correct. It is going up Stage Road and not down. So River Road will remain open, the bridge will remain open, Green River Road will remain open, and the east side of Stage Road, east of the covered bridge, should also be open.
So people can come down through, get on Jelly Mill Road, come down to River Road, and come up to the bridge that way.
That will
just in
have to
case-
be the detour during.
Just in case somebody's wondering when.
That's correct. Thank you, Steve.
And so is there any kind of notification for the residents other than, is it like on Front Porch Forum or, I
No,
just
we-
didn't know whether there was a protocol
It
about
is
it.
on the website, and Dan has been having his big mobile electronic sign placed in various
great.
locations
Okay.
to alert people of it, but only one of his 2 signs is functioning at the moment, so he's limited as to how many places he can notify people, so he's been trying to get as much traffic to see it as possible.
And is Kachuk putting up detour signs?
I believe that they're going to have traffic control,
Okay,
is my understanding.
okay.
And that project is part of the Better Roads grant that we are completing for this year.
Excellent.
What about the Sweet Pond work they were gonna?
The Sweet Pond work will be delayed until the spring. We got an extension on that portion of the grant to have it completed before August of next year.
Is that on the dam? Are you talking about the dam?
Nope,
No.
it's actually just some ditch work that needs to be completed on Sweet Pond Road, just to prevent flooding and washout of certain parts of the road down there. So that is hopefully coming as well.
Yeah, was the study supposed to be done this summer?
I actually, later on tonight, we've received official copy of the permit request for that. So it is moving forward, albeit slowly. But that's about it as far as I know for highway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mowing of Playscape space, Rec Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, come up to the table.
Yeah,
Please,
here,
then
why
we can-
don't we,
Thank you. That way we don't all have to rain our
Sorry.
It's only one.
Oh, just, no, I didn't.
yeah, would you like to,
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, you're speaking to this too, Andy?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was.
Do you need this one?
You can grab some chair.
Thanks.
yeah, you wanna come and sit down?
You guys
We've
can
got
come sit
chairs.
down and we could put a chair on the end.
Okay, thank you.
Or you can stand.
I'm gonna stand.
That's good.
So, I wrote something down to make sure I'd get all of my
Thank
points
you.
in.
Good for you.
So we're here on behalf of the Guilford Rec Commission to address the Select Board regarding the parcel of land, parcel number 240, which is located on Carpenter Hill Road, which is beside the one-room schoolhouse and across the street from the Andrew Weeks Trailhead, and which is called the Natural Playscape. The property was voted by the town on town meeting day on March 2015 to create a natural children's play area for enjoyment and educational purposes. The article was approved with the condition that the town of Guilford would not be responsible for any costs associated with development of ongoing maintenance. Since the article was passed by the town voters, there's been some good work towards the creation of the vision of the playscape. There were 2 open meetings that were held in 2015, which were well attended with input from interested residents of Guilford. There were 2 well-attended work parties that were held to prepare the land for the use. And we had a 3rd one scheduled, but it had to be canceled due to inclement weather. And Andy Lofney has been spearheading the project with the CC4G regarding the playscape, and he prepared a proposal for the receipt of grant monies, a total of $1,450, and grant money has been allotted for the playscape, and its usage is outlined in this handout here, if you'd like to take a look at that. And tonight we're here to ask the Select Board to consider adding the natural playscape to the town's mowing schedule. The parcel does require regular mowing, which has been a challenge in spite of best intentions of good volunteers. As a result, it's been unusable for large periods of time during the spring and summer when it would have otherwise been enjoyed by Guilford residents.
I'd just like to thank Wendy for that. That was nice to hear like the kind of synopsis of the project, and I would just add in that certainly the mowing has been the biggest barrier to the space right now. You know, I get down there in my tractor like once a year. It's, you know, to see in the middle of the summer, just kind of brush hog it. That's been the, you know, the maintenance at this point. But there are you know, perennial trees and some shrubs planted already. We're gonna, you know, part of this grant money is gonna put a big plant order in this winter, and you know, I still take the kids for the Guilford Library Camp down there, and certainly to have it mowed on a regular basis, I think it would get a ton more use in conjunction with the Weeks Trail. And yeah, that's just something we haven't been able to organize. I anticipate in the future, you know, we'll have a more coherent volunteer structure and maybe like a little equipment shed or something, or who knows. But you know, in the short term, I think that would really increase the
How big an
usage.
area are we talking that would be mowed?
I think like an acre.
So it'd be about an acre.
Yeah, it'd be about the size of that lot next to the Grange. And I think the whole parcel is 1.5 acres, but you could probably leave kind of a perimeter,
Right.
you know, like by like the Spooners there on the corner, and
So when you're brush hogging it, you feel after it was brush hogged, then it could be mowed
oh, absolutely.
appropriately.
Yeah. The ground is in decent shape. It's just a matter
Gotcha.
of it gets out of control
Right,
and it
and
needs
then
the
you
brush
gotta-
hog. But it's nothing, you know. There are some small trees, but they're like gonna stay there and
Right.
like be mulched and stuff.
I see.
So yeah, with
There's a nice natural kind of already kind of landscaped area there,
Right.
and Andy's done a good job just kind of using that and then building on that to make a nice space. So just trying to keep a maintenance schedule would be great.
Well, I see a couple of different aspects of this issue. One thing is that I thought that we need to have or aim toward having people who carry their own insurance for mowing of, for instance,
Town
the
mowing.
cemetery, the cemeteries, and so, the volunteers who would be mowing the Playscape aren't, I'm assuming, carrying insurance. So, to me, there are two pieces of this. One is whether the select board feels that we want to take on the cost of this. The other thing is that if we have a policy that we're aiming toward, then is that going to be consistent, and therefore we need to apply that to the Playscape as well as other things that we'll be discussing.
I'm gonna say I don't think this is up to the select board. The town voted to create this in 2015 on the assumption that it was not gonna cost the town anything. And if, while it seems like these are great ideas, it goes against what the town voted on. And I think that what we have to do is, and it's great timing now, because we can put it into either the rec commission's budget for the next year, and it would be relatively available in the summer of 2018, assuming that it gets passed. And we could always adjust funding from this year's budget and next year's budget to accommodate any needs next year, assuming that the town passes it. But I don't think that this is a select board vote. I think that because of the town's.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, reading it, you're right.
Yeah.
In that
And
sense.
thank you for reminding us that it was an article in the town meeting in the warrant. So I think that we could support it. Fiscally, the town could support it, and it could be, if it should come under the rec commission budget, then we could consider looking at your budget year to date or for the last 12 months or something like that, and seeing how to amend the budget to include something like this. Or we could add it onto the mowing
Yeah,
charter,
so
but it's more than mowing, so,
It's more than mowing?
they're talking about slide, picnic table, water pump, water play area, and some grading, so it's not just mowing of the space for $1,450. I mean, it's
Oh.
not a lot of money. But it is not-
From the grant.
This is the grant.
That's a grant.
Oh, this is the grant
The
money.
1450
Yeah, that's already,
Oh, I'm
Those
sorry.
things are already counted for in
for the
that.
grant.
For the
The
grant.
mowing would be on top of
So
that.
it's only mowing.
Correct.
Only mowing.
Yeah,
Only mowing,
that
yes.
was my understanding.
But it's still, what you've said is still true,
Yeah.
because this was voted by the
Okay.
townspeople,
Right.
and it needs to go back before them,
Right.
or it needs to go before them, like she said, incorporated in the rec commission budget, which we're just starting that process now, so it's really is good
Good
timing.
timing.
Unfortunately, it means that this year got neglected because of whatever reasons it was.
so
Well,
it would
you
be-
all
it
were
would be
trying to
in the
figure
bud-
out the-
It would be in the budget
Yeah.
at town meeting day.
Yeah,
that
but
makes
you all were
sense.
trying to figure out the best way to make it work this year, if I remember a number of conversations about that.
But then if that passes, that fiscal year starts July 1st.
That's correct.
It starts
So it's-
July 1st.
So it would just be a matter of finding, we could figure it out in June.
Yeah.
And I mean, that
And
works.
you're
I
gonna
mean,
wanna kind of create a space, I mean, you have some landscape plants in there, and you're gonna wanna kind of
Yeah.
develop where you want it mowed and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
that'll give you time to kind of figure that out.
I mean, it's also a relative point to bring up, because between me and the select board, we're trying to figure out a solution for all mowing projects for the town.
Right.
And so this fits right in. And
It's
so
timely.
It is, exactly. And so because you guys have been kind of, talking to me and pushing about this and wanting to be on the agenda, I think that it's great, because it's brought up this bigger discussion that has kind of unfortunately not had priority, and that's the overall mowing of all town properties. So it's very fitting.
But this is also, a wonderful time to commend the rec commission and the, you know,
Playscape
the
with Andy
Playscape.
et al.
Well, I mean, of just all you young people, you know, of, you know, just initiating these ideas and coming together and really consolidating opportunities for Guilford. And, you know, I might mention just in with this that the rec club, the rec commission, the Playscape, some other, you know, future visions for, we hope, a ski trail. There's a lot of excitement, and you know, also just the buy-in of the school. The school programming is pretty solid now. It's my impression, and I think that all of you have really done a great job of pulling that together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's terrific. Much appreciated.
And great for
Well
getting
said.
that grant and
Yeah, that's
the
good.
edible landscape. I love that phrase.
So the mowing for May and June, or whatever is necessary until July 1, will still be done by volunteers.
Yeah, I'm assuming it passed, the budget passes.
But,
and
you know,
everything.
but on the other hand, if it passes and we make some remarks in town meeting about some of this year's budget being used for that, if it's necessary, and then being replaced, you know, I think that there's some fungibility there.
I think that would be good, because then it would also address what Miranda's
Yeah.
discussion was about insurance and things.
Mhm.
So I'm
Absolutely.
just raising the point that it would be good to keep a
Agreed.
nickel and a dime
Yep.
aside now
Agreed.
to be able to say we've got it for May and June.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's the goal. I mean, from what you presented, I agree with her that that's what we'll try to do.
And actually, the 2 work days that we have had, there's been improvements to the parcel that have mitigated some insurance risks to the town, like barbed wire strung around the property, like 3 strands. A couple other things that were on, you know, when Wade Mazer came down for a visit right before this all happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the one thing that he wanted to see that hasn't been done was some grading done down to the stream, but I had Mike Kachuk come down there and take a look at it, and he said you'd be better off just like kind of carving a little path and like maybe putting up a little just half fence there or something, and maybe that would satisfy the last insurance requirement, and the town could actually get a little break on their insurance.
Maybe we should
because-
talk to our floodplain administrator on the stream modifications there.
Well, that's what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You know, there's nothing like that that needs to.
Okay,
Terrific.
well, thank you so much,
very
everybody,
much.
really appreciate it.
Excellent presentation.
And I'm just gonna say that mowing right along,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
the next thing is cemetery mowing.
Yes, cemetery mowing. So I had submitted a scope of work document that I gave to Peder. And you know, all of you could have it if you really want to get granular
Thanks
about.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Andy.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming. About the requirements of each cemetery. I love to talk about it, but I will be brief, you know. It's a real challenge to find people who are insured to mow the cemeteries, and it's unclear how we should proceed. You know, I'm not sure how to break down the issue for us here. It's just, it is what it was. You know, we're going forward with what we've got with, you know, several different people. Peder Hannon, Mary Jo Gaines doing the cemetery where her son is buried, and Jerry Baker does the hair-raising Blanchard Cemetery that you can hardly get to. It's very steep. And yeah, did I say Peder Hannon?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so none of those people is carrying the kind of insurance that I guess our liability plus record keeping would require, and really Sean Murphy pointed out, and Eric Morse, that we made a good faith effort to find people to do it in the past who had insurance, and we haven't been able to find anybody. I suppose we could put a box ad, you know, in the newspaper and look on Front Porch Forum, but I'm a little unclear about whose job it is to figure it out beyond what we've already done. And if it's my job to do it as the liaison to the Cemetery Commission, I'm happy to do it. I just don't know exactly where to advertise this scary job.
I think that I would, at the select board's approval, would put out an RFP, because that would be included with all of the other town mowing. And if the residents end up approving the Playscape, that would need to be included with that as well. Towards the end of the summer, I did speak with Tyler Higley, who owns Expert Lawn Care, who does the current property, and just as in an informal conversation, just letting him know that we may be putting out an RFP, and that it would potentially include the various cemeteries in the town. And he said he'd be happy to put together an RFP for the town, but he did want to just let us know beforehand that due to some of the things that you already addressed, particularly accessibility and location of several of the cemeteries, that those particular cemeteries would be a bit more costly. And because of the fact that they would have to use smaller equipment and it would take more time, that he's not opposed to considering it, but he's just letting the town know that it would have an impact.
What's the legal ramification to the town
So
on
that's
this
what I was
issue?
gonna say.
I mean,
We have the research of the Cemetery Commission, we have your feedback, but we have to absolutely look at the insurance requirements.
Which I spoke to Penny about at the end of the summer, and the town, for liability reasons, the town needs to have somebody who has proper liability insurance.
and that's inclusive of the cemeteries.
That is inclusive of the cemeteries. It's been a concern of Penny's for most of the time that she has been here. And so it is something that needs to be addressed for legal and safety reasons.
So we just need to do an RFP,
Okay.
and we need to invite people to do it. And then, with all due appreciation to all the volunteers who've taken care of it up until now, I mean, if they are not insured, and if there's no way to compensate them so that they can get insured, which might be a lower cost, or to purchase insurance on their behalf, which might be lower cost than contracting somebody out, if that's what they want to continue to do.
Is it possible, I mean, I'm not knowledgeable enough about insurance to know whether the town could carry a policy that would cover people.
Volunteer,
Well, they're not really volunteers, they're getting paid, but people who are doing it as occasional work. It would be, Jerry Baker, for instance, would charge way less to mow the Blanchard Cemetery than Tyler Higley could do. But I don't know whether we could just carry that insurance so that Mary Jo could continue to, because there's nothing wrong with any of the mowing that we've got.
So
What about the LCT?
There's really only two options. From what Penny has told me, there's two options for it to happen. Is the individuals either need to carry their own liability insurance, business liability insurance, or they have to be an employee of the town. Those are at this point in time, those are the only really two options that Penny has noted.
Has anyone reached out to VLCT and just asked a question? All the towns in the state of Vermont, do any of the cemeteries, how are the cemeteries
No,
handled
have not done
specifically?
so.
Because to me, it's a very unique, and going to the rec space, that's a, you know, a fairly flat area. You can go in with a decent sized mower. That's probably gonna cost less than doing
Correct,
some of
absolutely.
these cemeteries, and we've, I think, gotta be very specific about that. But I think it'd be worth having a conversation with the LCT, or someone who could at least offer an opinion on this. If it is that straightforward, fine.
So I think what we need to do is,
I
we
can
need to take all
inquire.
this information and present recommendations to the select board for action at the next meeting.
Yep.
And
Great.
thank you, Veranda, for all of your research on that as well, and
Oh, well, I love the cemeteries and the cemetery commission. So, just to let you know that we're meeting this Thursday, at the Maplehurst Cemetery, but if the weather's too bad, we'll just meet in the spare room here.
No problem.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is the nomination of the third Flood Hazard Review Board person, commissioner, member. And we asked Steve Lemke to identify somebody in the community at large, and he has recommended that we appoint Eric Morse as the third member of the Flood Hazard Review
So
Board.
moved.
Thank you.
Have you asked him?
No, I didn't. We'll get to that later.
I figured if Eric's name's there, he's
I've had a long conversation with Eric.
Yeah.
and
Great.
Just
That's
his
good. He's-
his minimal background, he's done a lot of flood elevations.
Exactly.
He's a retired surveyor.
Oh, yeah,
It's a perfect,
He would be happy to do it.
Applaud your
He would be happy to do it if the board asked him to do so.
Here's what Steve said before. He understands the bylaw, he's familiar with its inherent regulations, is an independent thinker, has technical knowledge and skills, knows the town. He's worked with many homeowners and lending institutions to determine base flood elevations for the purpose of securing mortgages and or flood insurance, and in so doing has become intimately familiar with flood hazard process, procedures, and issues. Thank you. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
was there a second?
Yes,
Randy
Miranda
seconded.
did.
Good, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I ask a point of order on, Peter, are you sending out the public meeting requirements to those people? Did I
I will be,
understand?
We
yes.
put together a list of
Okay.
things that they should have.
So you'll do that?
It's, Peter's gonna do that,
Okay,
right?
and
It's on his.
So I'll communicate with Peter, because once that's done, and now that they're all appointed, I'd like to call a meeting together with someone from Wyndham Regional, so we can review the process, the responsibilities and things, so there's no surprises.
Yeah,
Public
Excellent.
meeting
Great idea.
rules, open meeting law,
Right.
everything, yeah,
And the role that they may or may not play at the public meeting.
Exactly.
yeah. Thank you.
Well, that sounds like a great little commission there.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll never have to call them.
Yes.
Right. The next item, Peter, is the funds transfer.
Yeah, this is, there will be a full funds transfer memo at the next select board meeting. This is just a short one. So this is to request permission from the select board to transfer funds from the reserve fund into a fund created for the purpose of the work that is being done by the architects and engineers for the town office renovation project. And so it's a adjusting journal entry that would transfer transfer $31,000 from the reserve fund to the town office renovation project fund, as we, on the warrant later tonight, have our first invoice from the architects and engineers.
But it's a very different number than that one.
So he's creating a fund that will be specifically
Used for that
used
purpose.
Used
for
for
the
that
purpose, and
purpose.
he is putting some money into that fund, or
So-
transferring funds
So,
from
yes,
the
that's correct.
one fund into a fund designated specifically for
Specifically
town
for that
office
purpose.
renovations.
And so the reason for the $31,000 is the maximum fee that it would cost in total from the architect and engineers will be 31,000.
Okay,
It may be less than that, but that is the maximum that
it
they,
could be.
based off of their proposal to us, that would be the absolute maximum it would
I
cost.
see.
And so if there's any funds that remain in this after that work is done, it can be transferred back to the reserve fund.
But this is specifically for the architectural
That's
firm.
correct.
Thank you.
And why not an entire town office renovation project fund?
It is, well, no, this is just simply one line item within a fund. So I created a fund, so after I had
You talked
briefly-
about it, I just didn't know
Yep.
what you're calling it.
Yep, so it is the, town office renovation fund.
So it will cover it will be used to fund, to
All-
track all the expenses for,
And revenues,
and revenues for the town office renovation.
that is correct.
All right, and why is it coming out of the reserve fund and not the capital fund?
Because that's, one, because we have funds in the reserve fund that, according to town policy, need to be used this year. And based off a discussion previously with the select board, is that this would come out of the reserve fund because of that reason. And majority of the money that is currently in the capital fund will be going to the excavator that was purchased earlier this year.
Okay, I think it's worth noting that, just to say why we use, in the
I agree.
minutes
Yep,
to.
that's
to
very
note-
helpful.
Yep.
To add, or
Thank
add, it- and add it to this thing, that
Yep.
the reserve fund total is X.
Sure,
We are creating a town office renovation project to cover the income and expenses, revenue expenses related solely to the town office renovation. And that we are not using the capital fund because of what,
sure.
why.
I will include that in
So
the
I
minutes.
think I think that we can approve the transfer of funds to that, I would look for a motion to approve transfer of funds from the reserve fund to the town office renovation project, with an amended memo that reflects the data
Sure.
that we've just asked for.
Oh, I have a question. Well, should I save my question until we've had the motion?
We can discuss it now, so.
Oh, okay. Is there more money left in the reserve fund after this $32,000?
Yes, most
Reserve fund
definitely.
is over $500,000.
Oh,
It's
And
almost-
it's actually funded in excess of what is mandated by the town at
That's
this
correct.
point.
no, I just
Currently.
wondered, I was hearing you say that the money from the reserve fund has to be used this year.
Yes,
A
because
All of
portion,
it?
no, no,
a
no.
portion of it,
Oh,
no,
okay.
a portion of it.
I
There's a
mean-
ceiling on the reserve fund that we can hold. And we
Okay,
happen
this
to be
is
a little
just a
over it.
little new to me.
Yeah,
So
no, no,
next,
okay.
next
It's a
meeting,
good
Peter
question.
will have a memo that details every single fund that we have, the specific description, limits, whatever to
Okay.
the fund.
Terrific.
And,
That'll be helpful.
the year, the balance last year, the balance this year,
Okay.
what things get used for, so.
And then, since taxes have also been collected at the next select board meeting, there'll be various,
Transfers, funds that we voted on at town meeting.
for the various things that are funded
Mhm.
by the select board.
Yeah.
So that will happen at the next select board meeting.
And Veranda, I was asking the same questions
Oh,
whenever it was
really?
not
How
that
many
long ago.
years
So
Oh my
not
god,
many.
me too, I'm still
A year or
asking
two
them.
ago, I mean,
Okay.
it wasn't that long ago,
Oh,
so
yeah.
those are good questions.
I'm like, what is that fund? So, do I have a motion?
I so move.
Did you capture that motion? A motion to approve the
The
transfer
transfer of
of
funds.
$31,000 from the reserve fund to the town office renovation project. Actually, to create the town office renovation project fund and to move $31,000 from the reserve fund into the town office renovation project. And we'll go into the wording of that whole
Yeah,
memo later.
Yeah.
and noting that
Blah, blah.
this and that, right. Yeah, I'd like to move that.
I have a second.
Second, sorry.
Like,
It's
any
writing
more
a note.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We can work on that. We'll be back here tomorrow morning working on this, so we'll do that. Workshop bye everybody.
Take care.
Workshop updates, Peter. Update one or more?
Oh, I've got several, because I don't know if I've fully updated all of you.
Do you want me to take notes while you're doing this?
If you
Where are you?
wish, sure. I'm actually on
What's the agenda?
the draft minutes, not the agenda.
What's not coming through for me?
So, well, that's the agenda still. But anyhow, it's fine. I can come back to it like I normally do. So I believe that Sheila briefly talked about everyone had gone to the town fair. So I was part of the group that went to town fair. Shortly after, actually the week after the VLCT town fair, I attended a grants compliance workshop, which was put on by the department that Katie now oversees. And this is a brand new training. They've had other grants workshop trainings in the past, but this was a brand new day-long, fully comprehensive. And a big portion of it was to update town administrators, town managers, and others in similar roles, as well as town clerks, regarding new requirements that particularly the housing and urban development now puts on the state for the receipt of these funds from the federal government. And so it was helping us who are sub-recipients, which is technically what the town is, for these grants, how to do so. But it also had a bigger application as far as managing any form of state grants that we receive. So I found it very helpful. I thought it was very worthwhile. And actually, Ellie attended the meeting as well.
Is it more complicated or less complicated?
It's less. It's more. It's always more.
It's more.
Oh,
It's
Yes.
amazing.
They have simplified a few things, particularly they have moved to a completely online system now, where
I hate that.
it used it used to be a combination of both paper and online, which was complicated and difficult. Now they will only accept online submissions for this, and they have updated and improved the website that they use for this process, which was, I think everyone felt that was helpful. But yeah, and then last week I went to the Economic Development for Town Leaders workshop and press
You went to
release.
Vinci?
Not to.
No, and then he showed up after that, and we were at the Southern Vermont Connectivity Summit,
Yes.
which was around internet connectivity in Southern Vermont. The Economic Development Summit was more of a press release than it was an actual workshop, and it was a combination of groups. It was Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, SEVIDS, and Wyndham Regional Commission were updating everyone on a number of projects that they have been pushing forth in Wyndham and Bennington counties over the past year, and partially celebrating that they were able to convince the state legislature to create an additional 6 TIF districts within the state, which now will enable both Bennington and Brattleboro to be able to, in the greater Brattleboro region, to apply to the state to be considered a TIF district.
You might just explain to our studio audience in a sentence or two what a TIF district is.
I forget what the acronym is.
Oh, I don't mean about that, I mean just what is it?
It's an economic development region within the
Okay.
state that gives businesses and organizations certain economic advantages for certain periods of time if they choose to start their business in that region and create jobs in that region.
Right.
And prior to this year, the state had set a limit as to how many could be created within the state, and a number of the smaller hub towns such as Brattleboro and Bennington and Wilmington felt like they got a short end of the stick because they all went up north.
Right.
And so because part of what comes with this is state support for these. And then Gordon and I attended the Southern Vermont Connectivity Summit, which was interesting.
Yeah, and I think it was very, Laura Shabilia
Laura
Oh, yeah.
Sebelius.
laid it out, and the format I thought was a good. But the bottom line is, from her, nothing is going to happen connectivity-wise in the town of Guilford unless the town of Guilford makes it happen. Period. You know, the state isn't doing. You know, and that the net of the whole offshoot is the state is working on the goal of having what 25/3
No,
is.
the
No.
10.
I thought it was higher than that. That's where they're going. Is ultimately that's
Well,
what
that's
they
what they're-
want.
that's what they're
forget
working
about
for.
fiber.
What's 25/3?
That's like
25 megabytes download, 3
Right.
megabytes upload.
upload. Fiber's up here. You know, 25/3 is here, and then 10 is
So-
our current what the state is pushing for is here.
Currently, the state is pushing for 10.1, which is 10 megabytes download
Right.
and 1
One
upload, because that is what the federal government does.
Right.
Now, Laura and several other state senators and legislators are trying to push
Correct. I'm
to
sorry. You're
have
right.
it increased to 25.4, which is
25.
the pretty much seen now as the absolute minimum that people need. But if you have more than 2 people in a household who are, streaming movies or games or, working from home, that speed is inadequate. And everyone at the summit fully acknowledged that, but that's
it.
the
I
state
mean,
of where we're at.
I asked the question: Why are state senators and our U.S. Senator, why are we focused on that level instead of this level?
And the answer was?
The answer was
Politics.
a circular,
Well, here's the answer. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to come out and say it. The answer is that the communications
cost.
companies have lobbied the state and federal legislators so that towns cannot raise money through bonds or taxes
Correct.
to pay for this, and they have to. They're at the mercy.
Right, but that's not why our senators are pushing for a higher speed.
yeah.
It comes down to cost. The cost of doing a fiber network or the top of the line, it's expensive, and it's in a rural area, it's real expensive. So
Well, it's ridiculous to talk about community economic development.
right,
Or the future of having people under 60
right, exactly. Without it,
Right.
I mean,
in our state without it. So I wonder, it's out of the scope of the select board tonight to figure out how to cut through this, but it should be done.
somehow, some way.
But-
we should do something.
And there are other technologies that are becoming available that
There
will
are.
potentially drive us in that direction cost effectively, or more cost effectively.
More cost effectively, yeah.
Fiber optic, you mean?
That they are actually, yeah. We won't go into all the details. We can talk about that after the select board meeting. We don't have to bore people with the details of that. But I agree with Gordon that I think it was well done, and I think that they concluded it well in that they were pretty honest. They being
They were, yes. Laura especially.
Laura especially, as well as I forget the gentleman's name from Bennington that was there. That was also a senator. But anyhow, they both were very frank, saying that if towns want to get higher speed internet for their residents, that's up to them to figure out a solution. And there have been towns that have worked within the system that exists and within the regulations that exist to do that.
A couple.
A couple, yes.
Most of them have been exercises in frustration and great expense, from what I remember, because that's what we learned.
They
working
have.
with-
I mean, there
They
are
had
a
some
couple
presentations.
models out there that are worth looking in a little deeper about. I think. But-
Yeah.
But
So I
all in all,
think that's a goal for us to do at some later point.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have
Well, thanks for that report,
Yeah.
Peter.
very good.
so yes,
Peter.
so that is pretty much what I have done as far as workshops in the past month.
Great.
Next item is the flood hazard bylaw meeting change, which is not Wednesday, November 15th, but it will be Wednesday, November 29th,
That's
That's
why I
correct.
didn't have it in my phone,
6 o'clock.
Steve.
at the
Floodplain
Guilford
waste
Central
management. I have it
School.
here. When did we change this?
We sent out a note 2 weeks ago
Okay,
to say that it was not Wednesday night. And
thank you, I missed,
at the
didn't pay attention.
end of the meeting, we are going to present some information about our involvement, the town's involvement with Wyndham Solid Waste Management District. And I am once again asking other select board members to please be available for that. There will be information sheets and some brief opportunity for brief questions.
6 or 6:30 on the
Six.
29th? 6, so that's a change too. Okay,
So
thank you.
I'm not there and somebody else isn't.
Yeah,
Gabby will
Gabby's
not be
not
there.
there on the 29th, so it
I'll
would-
be there.
it would be great if
And I am planning
you
to be there as
and
well.
Richard and the two of you and Richard can be there.
Sheila?
Yes.
I'd like to request that the select board write a very simple statement that can be read to the public that explains why the select board is looking at this bylaw. So, because if two people are not there, it would be nice, I think it would be effective and important that it says something like, consider the select board's general responsibility to protect the people of the town and the property and the resources and the town plan. That this potential bylaw came to our attention, that's why we're looking at it. I mean,
That sounds great.
that way there could be one statement that's read on behalf of all 5 select board members,
Mhm.
and nobody has to, and again, I think it's important that we'll say, that I'll say, or somebody will say, that no decisions will be, that it's strictly an informational meeting and a update meeting, at the first maybe of many, or the first of, whatever, but that no decisions will be made that night, so that people can get used to the,
Okay.
get used to the process.
I think Peter and I could work on that tomorrow because
And
we are.
then, yep, we'll disseminate that to everyone for
And
your
so
proposal.
would that be, put out before the meeting and
No, well,
done at the
that's
meeting?
up to the select board. I just think it's important that night, if
Sure.
3 people are there, that it could be read on behalf of everybody.
Okay.
Good
thank you.
suggestion. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
And one last thing, Peter, could you put me on the agenda for the 27th, so we can review that 2 day, review what's going to actually happen at the public meeting 2 days prior to it happening? So
No
that's
problem.
final conversation.
Could be a long meeting.
It will.
Well, I'll get you all the stuff in advance. It will be more that if you have to change for one reason or another.
No problem.
I did see the change, but I thought it was just the Wyndham Solid Waste coming off.
No.
I didn't look at the date. Sorry.
Fiscal year 19
Yes, so
budget
the
project.
this will be short and sweet. The fiscal year 19 budget process is slowly getting underway. I've started being in communication with actually quite a number of the social service agencies that the town.
They're always on time. How's everybody else?
Yep, well, as usual, there hasn't been huge response. I'm gonna send out an email this week and kind of give a swift kick in the pants to start moving on this so that we can have all the information compiled for the select board to review at our workshops, which will also be scheduled this week.
Yes. Okay.
So,
Do we have, did we agree on which a part of the day our work sessions would be? I mean, are we going to stick with the 7:30?
well, I'm gonna propose some in the morning and some in the
Okay,
afternoons.
fine.
And it will be up to you as to whenever you guys are all available and when a majority of you, at least a quorum of you, will be available, and that's when we'll schedule them.
Okay,
So
So you're gonna
last
send
year,
out a Google meeting or something like that,
I
yeah?
will indeed do
Okay.
that.
And that will be this week, because,
That is correct.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to warrants. So I'd like to make the
Gordon,
motion
it's all yours.
to pay the following payroll and expense warrants. Well,
thanks, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Good to see you. We'll start with payroll week ending 10/29/17 for $7,989.60. Payroll week ending 11/5/17 for $4,813.36. Payroll week ending 11/12/17 for $4,664.18. Expense warrant number 9CC4 for $3,305. Expense warrant number 189A for $3,150,855.21.
Everybody can fall off their chair now.
Which I will come back to in a
I
minute.
figured.
Expense warrant number 09FW for $28. Expense warrant number 1809 for $263,005.40. Now, let's back up to expense warrant 189A.
Did you want?
We're gonna get to the total
I'm
in a
going
minute.
to handle that in a minute. Just to explain, expense warrant number 189A for the $3,150,855. That is consists of the passed at town meeting for our school budget for both the Guilford Central School and the Brattleboro Union High School for that total. That's what that number is, why it's so staggering. And on expense warrant 1809, the 263,000, the big piece of that is 230,000 of that is coming out of, again, what was passed through town meeting for the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department.
Uh-huh.
So those are two really big expenses. I would also like to include on this, but with a stipulation, this is warrant number 189B for $61,624.08. But I would like to see that on here contingent on a satisfactory explanation of the extraordinary tax overpayment for 2017 by the listers, to explain that number a little clearer to the chair of the select board as well as the town administrator. Once that is done, this total payroll and expense warrants is $3,496,284.83. So it's a very large number.
So, just to be clear, we have tax revenues. We are now dispersing tax revenues to fulfill commitments made at town meeting in the budget. And we have a $61,000 question as opposed to a $64,000 question related to something that none of us on the select board have ever seen before, which is a long list of tax overpayments, refunds of tax overpayments. And they probably make a lot of sense, but we would like to have an explanation from the town treasurer and the listers as to why this process is happening. So, and then assuming that Peter and I understand this to be a satisfactory explanation, and I'm sure that it's logical.
Yep.
We just don't know. So that is why this $61,000 is contingent upon receiving a satisfactory explanation. Thank you for that motion. That was very complex.
And what seems confusing to me is that when the listers came to the last meeting, we had an exhaustive conversation about the one overpayment, and to my knowledge,
Not the errors and omissions and
didn't come
Yeah.
up, and considering the scale,
right.
it just seems odd that we're asked to, I trust that it is reasonable. It's just, I really support having that provision. So I guess I'll second it.
Great.
You guess.
No, I will definitely second it.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Now I'd like to make a motion to move into executive
I'm gonna
session.
give you, we have two left to,
You have to do two things.
we have to do two things. One is that we have to find
Yes.
that premature knowledge of discussions related to personnel matters and contracts could potentially put the town at significant, you have to move that could potentially put us in, here, you wanna use the wording? I move that premature.
I move that premature knowledge of discussions could potentially put the town at significant risk, and premature, public knowledge. And that's why we're moving into executive session.
And would you second that, Miranda?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then,
I
Okay,
thought
now
I was
you,
supposed to read this.
and that's the next one, okay.
Isn't that all
it's
one?
two, we need
The second,
both
we
parts.
need
Oh.
both parts, we always, that's the new thing. So here, you can read this again. Number 2,
Okay, I also move to enter into executive session
at 7:30.
at 7:30 for personal matters and contract discussions per 1 VSA 313A 1 and 3, and invite our town administrator, Peder, to join us.
Miranda, would you care to second that one?
Oh, I certainly will.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So,
Yep,
we
here
are
we go.
going into executive session at 7:30. Coming out of executive session at 8:44, and
And I'd like to move the following. To accept Dan's recommendation for a new road crew hire member. That's number 1. Number 2, contract proposals are pending. Oh, I see you're typing. Contract proposals are pending further review and feedback of all select board members. 3, identify someone to shovel entries into the town office building and finish cleaning the
handicap access.
handicapped access. And 4, agree to adopt the town administrator's select board working relationship memo as drafted.
And I would like to second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're not done yet. We have communications.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple of communications, very quickly. As noted at the very beginning of the select board meeting, ever so long ago, received a communication from Dubois and King Construction that they have applied for a state wetland permit to begin the process of rebuilding Sweet Pond.
Yay!
Yes.
So they don't know the decision yet, but because of the nature of one part of what they need to do is to build some handicap parking spaces as well as handicap access to the pond, and that infringes upon a wetland that exists down there, and so they need state permission to do so. So that's just
Peter, may I just ask a question?
of course.
Will this information be posted on the town website?
So I do not have this information in digital form.
I see.
But the reason it is actually sent to the town office is it is open for public review. So anyone within the town of Guilford who is interested in this wetlands permit application is welcome to come to the town office and speak with me and view this information and get photocopies if you wish.
Well, that's really important news for our town, considering the long
So,
struggle.
Yes, it's been a
Yes.
long time.
So this is a really critical step in the
Yes.
project actually coming to fruition.
Like it's gonna happen.
And then very briefly, we received a letter from Sevka thanking us for the appropriations check for this year, that it dramatically helps the work that they do. We got a similar thank you letter from The Gathering Place, for same purposes. And then last but not least, we received communication from Green Up Vermont requesting the select board to select the annual coordinator for Green Up Guilford for this year. And Ellie has indicated that if the select board would be interested in appointing her again, she would consider doing it.
She's amazing.
Yes.
She's
Um,
We'd
amazing.
love to have
All the
Ellie
things
do
that
it
she
again.
does.
Do we
She's so-
have to do that via a motion or just, I don't mean emotion, I mean a motion?
I think we might as well have a motion.
I believe we did so last year, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
Okay, I'd like to move that we invite Ellie to be the green up coordinator.
And I second it with a happy heart.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you,
and
Ellie.
much gratitude. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. I do want to say something about the outstanding items before the select board, which is that some of these things are there as placeholders for when we get to them. A note about the extra town generator, which is on D, is just a puzzle. We've been, and I don't know that we want to get into it tonight, but somebody should spend some time thinking about it. There is no use for it in town, basically.
No, there's not.
And so we don't really think, I don't think that we need to invest one penny in doing anything other than getting rid of it
Mm-hmm.
or offering it for sale to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't that one of the options presented?
It is.
Then perhaps we could get it off our
Our
to-do
to-do list and onto Peter's, put it up on front porch, I'll do it on front porch for him if
Yeah.
we need to.
Because only elected officials can put stuff on the front porch for 'em.
Oh, no, you can, yeah, I can.
I'm not a
No,
resident of
but
Guilford.
but
yeah,
you're
right.
not a
You have to be
resident, that's right,
resident,
so,
of
okay,
course.
so,
Sorry.
so I'll,
You
Excellent.
can put it on Brattleboro's front porch for us.
I'm sure the town of
And
Brattleboro
our
would love that.
studio audience, all the
no,
people
we
who
have this
stay up late.
massive generator that needs a lot of fixing. So I'll put it on front porch for him after we figure out how much we should get rid of it, and Peter will, what are you gonna do with it? Let me know how much, what the repairs are. Okay.
And what, can I ask the rec commission on
So
here?
we had a question about the rec commission, and I have to go back into
See
that
what-
and look
okay.
about how they report to us and how they run their meetings and stuff like that. It
Okay.
seems
Well,
to me
I
that that is
know
all
about
changed. I
that
know.
because-
So there's no time for a discussion about it tonight. But I
Well,
have
why
to go
don't we
back and,
take it off
Off,
the
yeah.
to-do list and fold that into their request, their budget request?
okay. I mean, I think we just have to look at what questions we were talking about formulating, so. Any other items? Anybody wish to?
I'd like
place
to make a
that we
motion to adjourn.
At 8:51 PM.
And I would like to second that.
Awesome. Any discussion?
No discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. I hope you have a thorough grasp of the news.